Well, good day. It is 12:04 p.m. and I'm sorry to have gotten around to getting started on this so late. It's day 22, or the 16th of September. Temperature is 57 degrees, wind out of the west at 9 miles an hour, and it is 57% humidity. Well, I know a couple days ago I talked about that explosion off somewhere in the area of the Great Expanse. Following that night, I went onto the roof and took a look, and it was just a big blaze out there. I mean, I could see some of the flames licking over the tops of the buildings between here and there, but there was just a bright orange glow, and no other explosions, which I guess is good. And then last night I took a look as well, and it looked as though things were dying down. I mean, I could see a faint glow, like maybe there was some residual flames going on, but nothing really, nothing like it was before. So I don't know if things are just burning out, if it was just like a containment tank or something that went, or what. And then the blaze that's out there now, I'll just have to keep an eye on it to see if it's something that continues, if it's burning off materials as they're being pumped or processed, or if it's bleeding from another tank or something like that. But I'll try to keep you guys as informed as I can. And like I said, if you're out in that neck of the woods, give me a ring, or give me a signal, a sign. You know how to get a hold of me, and let me know what's going on. So I didn't really know what to talk about today. I guess I'd start off by saying hello to you survivors out there who are actually listening to the show, whether I know who you are or not. I know I've had an opportunity to speak with a couple different people at this point, but that doesn't mean that I'm not thinking of those out there who are not yet in touch with me. So let's talk a bit about zombies. So I was thinking about the techniques of survival and what all that entails, and everything from what I've seen over the last few days, as well as how Hollywood has depicted them, things of that nature. Obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is to go for the brain. That seems, from what little I've been able to been told, to certainly be true in this case. Whatever it is that animates these things seems contingent to some degree upon what's between their ears, so anything that disrupts that seems to, if not just down them outright, to certainly screw up the communication between what's going on in their brain and the rest of their bodies. I would say that be ready to move. My advice would be, and of course, you're taking this from the guy who's locked up in his radio station, but things change out there an awful lot. I mean, I've certainly been keeping an eye on the activities out there for these zombies, trying to count them and keep an eye on what it is that they're doing, and they seem to be rather sporadic and erratic, and don't have a lot of patterns to them, which would just lead me to believe that it would be hard to predict what they're doing. So I'd say if you're out there, moving about in the city, you might want to always have, like a supply pack, weapons, things of that nature, that if you weren't able to make it back to your safe house or whatever, that you would you'd still have enough with you to survive. And use your instincts, definitely. If something doesn't feel right, I'd say listen to your gut. There's a lot to be said about just the compulsions that people get to do or not to do something at a given moment, and I trust in those. I'd mentioned earlier when it comes to weapons that one of the things you want to definitely consider is just because you can carry an arsenal doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the wisest step for you. Certainly, as I was mentioning before about noise, definitely a worthwhile consideration. A knife or even like an axe, something that would deliver enough of a powerful blow and have enough means to puncture the skull of one of these zombies would definitely be a weapon that would be, I think, much more valuable than something that's going to make a lot of noise and draw a lot more attention. Another thing I thought about is, if you can't bite through it, then neither can they. So when you're thinking about what it is that you're wearing, keep that in mind. Like there's an old jean jacket that I found here that, as I was thinking about it, I mean the human mouth can put a lot of pressure per square inch, but we don't really have the teeth that can puncture a lot of materials. So all that pressure is displaced across your entire rows of teeth, and although it would certainly pinch your arm if you were to bite someone wearing a denim jacket or a leather jacket, it's not gonna break through that barrier. And so it might be worth considering when you're decking yourself out to be on the move. Which kind of brings me to fending off zombies. Remember that zombies, I mean, we don't know, I think, at this point, how things are contracted. If it's through any fluid, if it's through blood, if it's through saliva, or what. But, I mean, just assume that all it takes is a scratch from them, or their mouth on you, or anything like that to convey that. So when fending off these zombies, it's all about keeping control of their head, I guess. Try to keep your hands and arms and so forth away from that mouth, and hopefully you're able to. You know what? I'm gonna have to sneeze. Oh, great. That's just what I'm going to need to get a cold. Okay. Yeah, so sorry about that. If they're on top of you, or you find yourself in a grapple with them, just be mindful of that. That their mouths, their fingernails, all that sort of stuff. Keep them away from you. I don't know. Maybe kicking them is a better idea than trying to punch them. The last thing you want to do is try to sock a zombie in the face and end up, busting open a knuckle on its teeth. That I assume would be just as bad as a bite. If you haven't already found one, you're going to need to find some sort of safe house location, something that you can secure. You definitely want something that's got a means to protect the windows, to lock the doors, things of that nature. I don't know what there are as far as materials to board things up, or to use fences and perimeters, barbed wire, anything like that. You're going to need supplies. Probably one of the easier things around here, if you're anywhere near the river, is a supply of water. But just because you can pull water from the river doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe. And of course, as time goes on, that the top of that river is going to freeze up, and you're going to have to find another means to draw water. I had early on, John and I had gone around, and we had sort of pulled as much water as we could out of the toilet tanks to try to store. And that's actually been sort of the first bit of water that I've kind of gone through. But we've also, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of those water cooler jugs, the big 5-gallon jugs, and then also the bottled water that's in our break room vending machines and stuff. So, but for you guys out there, I mean, just remember that the tanks of those toilets where you are have water. I don't know what water would be in the lines at this point, but open those suckers up, fill the bathtubs of the houses that you're in, things of that nature. And then as far as food is concerned, that might be even trickier. You're definitely, I mean, it's been 22 days at this point, so we haven't had refrigeration for a while, so I can't imagine that there's much in a refrigerator at this point that would be worth consuming, especially if it's something that has to be kept cold. Your pantries are your better bet at this point, canned foods. And certainly if you don't have one right now, find a can opener, something, and keep that with you at all times, because you're going to be looking for those types of foods down the road, and if you can't open those things, it's just going to really frustrate you. Now, we're all here in Saskatoon, and it's a big city, but we all know the areas of town that are more densely populated than others, and I would probably just altogether steer clear of that stuff. If you're not alone, then I would say don't travel alone. I know it sounds like a great idea to divide and conquer, but I'm telling you, somebody who's got an eye at your back is going to be a valuable asset when you're out there moving around. And then I think, one of the keys to survival here is keeping your distance. A zombie's only a threat when he's on top of you, and there's no sense in trying to play superhero and running into a batch of them to have at them. I think, quite honestly, if you're able to keep your distance, if you're able to move faster than they are, then you should. I think it's fair to say that no place is safe right now. I've seen zombies of one flavor or another get into a lot of areas that you otherwise wouldn't think that they would be able to. But the other thing I would say is that what we consider safe, it might only be that way for a time being. I mean, you've maybe, if you haven't seen what these red zombies are capable of, I kid you not, a stick-built house where there's nothing but plywood and drywall between you and it. These reds have the ability to I mean, if they can move cars, I guarantee you they can punch through walls. And unless you're in a concrete building or something, just remember that if you're on their radar, if they're aware of where you are, where you're hiding, there isn't much that's going to keep them at bay. And then I think the last thing is you gotta hang on to your hope. You gotta be optimistic. Fight, survive. Sometimes it's better to run and fight another day. It's about living. It's about survival. And so I'd say that what you need to do is definitely to keep that in mind, that every day, every hour, every minute you survive is a minute that you've beaten them, and each one of those minutes piles up, to make things to to make it all the more likely that you're going to be able to survive the next one. We've all, no doubt, been in some bad situations up to this point, and I'm sure those of you out there have been in far worse situations than myself, and yet there you are. I mean, you're listening to this show, assuming that you're able to do so without having to constantly watch over your shoulder and to, in the confines or safety of whatever location you're able to have found for yourself at this point. I mean, that's huge. Don't lose sight of that. This isn't the end, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This may just be the beginning. We don't know if these zombies one day will fall over and die. If they'll dry up or their bodies will rot or whatever, and it'll all be done. They certainly have slowed down, but we don't know. These Reds, if you're a survivor out there, then it is entirely possible that you might be able to, be in a situation where someone else got caught and another Red was made. And there's going to be that threat out there that's looming over us always. And you just got to keep on top of things. You got to keep aware, keep conscious. Don't get lax. Don't lull into a false sense of security. And try to think one step ahead. I'm telling you, the longer we survive, the more we know. The more we're able to figure out a means of survival for ourselves, to make ourselves safe, to protect ourselves, maybe even to learn more of what it is that's going on with these zombies. But we keep all that in mind, then soon we'll be able to move around a bit more. And once we're able to move around a bit more, we'll be able to get in contact with one another. And when we're able to get in contact with one another, we'll be able to communicate and convey what it is that we know, and we'll be able to pool that information. And I really hope that I might be able to get that information out to everybody, and such that in the end, when all is said and done, we'll have a way to fight back, or we'll have a way to get past this, or we'll have a way to end this. So hang in there, survive, don't give up, and keep all that in mind, and we're going to get through this. So remember that, Saskatoon. It's your job, it's your duty, I guess, at this point, is to not give up, keep up the good fight. So keep that in mind, and I'll be in touch again with you tomorrow. So stay alive, Saskatoon. I'll talk to you tomorrow at noon. Remember, as always, you can grab any police radio. I've got my scanner on here. CB on channel 19. Ham radio on the 80-meter band at 3.675 megahertz. And I also have that walkie-talkie on channel 1. All right, Saskatoon, stay alive. I'll talk to you tomorrow.